Hello, this is Annette Hopkins, and I'm going to be showing you the classes that I took when I went to the Stamp and Scrapbook Expo in 2019 in Schaumburg, Illinois. So I did two classes besides the card swap. The first one I did was on Friday, and it was called Your Day to Howl, and it was put on by Peddler's Den, and that one cost $39. That one I really wanted to take because it is a stamping technique class, and also they were using masking, and I have watched some videos on masking, but I really didn't know how to do it. So I was really excited to do this. And so they had two I could have taken. This one was actually the one I was most interested in because it has a wolf scene, and my sister is like wolf fanatic. And also, I love wolves myself. So, which is great. Since I work at the zoo, I love everything animals. The other one they had was a sunset. I think it was different colors like mauve and pink with a lake, which I thought was really nice, but it was at the same time I had something else going on, so I couldn't take that one. But this is my very first time masking, so around in here you can see I got it kind of smudged up, and I really didn't know how to do it. So we did use some stamps, and this class cost $39. Now they did have some requirements for the class to bring, and one of those things was to use these special brushes, and they said not to use brushes like you use for stenciling because they wouldn't work so well. So these I had to order ahead of time. And the bad thing is there was nowhere to wash off. She said you can just wash these with water, so I need to do that. Although I imagine it's in there permanently. So I bought these ahead of time to make sure I had the right supplies, because she said if you didn't, you'd be behind because you wouldn't have the right things. And then the other thing is I bought this ahead of time from her, and she just had it all for me for the class. And what it is that you bought the special tack and peel, and you put this on your stamp box and use that to stamp. So then you have a cover, and that's why it says this side up. It's not for the stamp, it's for this plastic, because she said if you take this off and put it on the wrong way, it's hard to get off. So this is to cover the sticky part. And then if you have other stamps you want to use, like your clear embossed stamps, then you can just, your clear stamps can go on the other side and you don't have to have the sticky part. And then I had some extra sticky that she didn't use that I can use for future ones. And I believe these were card bases they gave us in envelopes, even though we only did one, but we wanted to practice again, I guess. And then they gave you some of the stamps. Now on the scene, the wolf stamp was like a plain white piece of paper like this, which is the wolf on there. That's what we started with. And then the rest of the stamps, we didn't get the wolf stamp because that was already pre-stamped. The other stamps that we stamped with, we did get. And so you would just put these on here, and then you stamped. So this one I don't think we used, or maybe I just didn't get around to it, but it's making a scene, and then it has original work of art by, and then you could stamp this on the back of your card and write your name. So that's pretty nice. And then the other part, this one, I don't know if you could see the details, but it did all this part. So then what we did is we masked, and she used Post-it paper, Post-it. And so as you can tell, it kind of goes like that is where I stamped. So we covered up the trees, is what we did, and stamped this. So you didn't go, so we did the trees first, and then we used the brushes to go with the ink, and then we used a Q-tip to color green in the trees. And then the part I had trouble with is when I stamped these trees, and actually it was just one tree, and so you would stamp just different spots, and then we took a Post-it note, put over here, so when we stamped here, just the top of the trees would show and wouldn't be on our hill. But the problem I had is only like the top of the tree print, there was nothing here, so there wasn't anything in between. Later on she gave us a tip of what you could do when that happens, and it was to take a certain kind of marker to draw in part of the lines, but I didn't know that. So I stamped again, and I got way too much black ink here. So I think since I'm not the best stamper in the world, and rubber stamps are really hard where you can see. So I do have a stamping platform, so this type of thing, you could probably use your stamping platform first and still do your masking. And so that if you didn't stamp it just right, you can go over it again. So for my future, that's probably what I would try to do. Now, I did not have time to or money to go buy a bunch of stamps from them. However, since I already have this one, you can do a background and the tree. And then all we really ever used was the wolf. So something like this, I only need a little animal. And their stamps were very cheap. I think you could get some wolves for $3 or $4. So you could get a few stamps and not spend over $20. And I don't remember what kind of ink that she recommended. I think it depended on which ones. Like the trees, we used one particular kind because you don't want it coming off. And then the background was water-based. So they do give you directions. So have all the instructions for the class. So when I have time and money to buy more supplies and practice this technique, which I really do want to do, and she has how to clean our stipple brushes and things like that. So I have all the information there for when I want to do more of this. So I really did like that technique because I would never try this. Now I think she did have masking paper and she had a circle cut out, and you just put the circle down and then you put it wherever you wanted. So the tree was already stamped. And then you put this down and then put the color, so the black. And then one tip she said is you make your darker colors on the outside and lighter towards the moon, because as the moon is putting out light, you want a light rim around it. So while mine wasn't perfect, it was neat trying it out, and for me it turned out pretty cool. And then the next class was the one I really wanted to take. I wanted to do the Art Impressions class because I've always wanted to do watercolor, but I have absolutely no artistic skill, so I can't draw a stick figure to look good. So this is a way that you can do watercolor by using stamps. And I'd seen some videos on that, so I thought that would be really good for me because I love this look and I love the cards that it made. So this is by Art Impressions. They gave you watercolor paper, and it's a 2-hour class, so it seems like, or maybe it's an hour and a half. Here's the information. So it was the watercolor workshop from 9 to 11, so it was a 2-hour class, and it was $60, and it cost a lot because it's a 2-hour class and they have to rent the room. So you get a lot though. So for everything we did, there is directions. So she did the directions on an overhead and really showed how to do it, but as you can tell, there's detailed pictures here of how to do it, so we could look at it and see what steps we were a little behind on. The lady sitting next to me was brand new to this also. Mine didn't turn out great, but for my skill, and I can't paint at all, I thought it was very good, and I could see with practice that it's going to get a lot better, and I really did like it. And really, the only things you need is stamps, watercolor paper, a water brush, and colors. And they only gave us maybe 7 different markers to work with during the class, and we achieved a whole lot of colors. So first thing they did is what they show here. They showed some of their basic things, so that's what they recommend if you bought stamps, is just to buy the basic ones, which was their foliage and their flower sets. And then you can go from there and probably have like a, I haven't put it in, but I'll show you that. So here she showed us the technique for doing grass. Mine looked a little smudgy. This one probably turned out best. And then here I was trying to do flowers. And again, vines. And then these flowers, you don't go over the water with the stems because you want them to look the same. And so that was us practicing. So that was the first time I'd ever done it. Then I believe this was the second thing that we did. We did a vase. And of course I need to get a lot better with the watercolor. Like she was showing us how to do sky, and I was having trouble with that. And I'm still having trouble with vines, but I decided mine looked like a pot that was left over the winter. You know how it is in the spring, and it's the pot that got let go. So I thought it looked realistic. If you want to think that's what my pots look like out at the early spring before I've cleaned them up, or at the fall when they're going away. So, but that was my first thing I ever did. So again, you could see how it'll get better after you have some more practice. And then the next thing we did, which it did look better, so it's looking better. And I like that you're just using a few stamps, then they make it a wreath. Mine's turned out, but you drew a circle to try to keep it straight, but I'm not very good at positioning the stamps yet because I'm new to this. So it didn't turn out quite as circular as I would have liked, but it does give you an idea of how you can do this. And that is why she had us practicing on practice paper first. So I do have a lot of this type of watercolor paper I can practice on before I actually try to make a card. And then the next image she had us do, this one actually I wasn't excited about because, hey, it's a truck and it's all one color. But now the only thing I don't like is how mine turned off that way, but maybe I could cut it in a circle or something, and or add something more over here. But what I liked about this, we didn't have trees, but she was showing us how to mask off again and how to make the branches or vines look like a tree back here. And it looks like I'm going to have to add some more in here. But what I liked about it was we were basically using maybe two colors. It's basically shades of this brown, but I thought it looked really pretty. And if you put it on a card with similar color, I think that would have really looked cool. So, really. And this is the last picture that we did. So we stamped this little girl, and then we used the colors to watercolor her. I started putting a lake. Now I didn't have time to finish, but if you look in the picture, then they just have you stamp grass and vines and flowers around to make it look like she's sitting at a lake. And I did buy some flowers and some vines that I could stamp. And so that was the class, and I ended up going, if you took their class, they gave you an exclusive stamp that's only for the people who take this class this year. And so here's the stamp set that you did get. Now sometimes in their stamp sets they do show different items that may not be with the stamp set. So the flowers don't really come with this one, but what it is they don't want to duplicate things, so that if you buy different pots and carts and such, then you don't want to have flowers in every set, because then you'd have a lot of flowers, so you buy everything separately. But this is exclusive for the 2019 class. And then if you look at the top, then it shows what actual stamps are in there. So you actually get the wagon and the pots, and then the canopy that go on top. So once I get me some watercolor markers, then I'm going to try this out, and I'll be practicing and then try to make some cards, and hopefully you can follow my progress and you can see what a beginner can do with it.